Eventually, I started following the only thing I knew. I started going in the streets. I started selling drugs. I started robbing. I started smoking weed. I started doing everything that I saw that I thought was part of growing up and being a man.
And the biggest reason we have the biggest systemic issue is the active or activity or involvement thereof of masculine, mature men in these spaces.
If I want to transfer that negative energy into a young person, that type of self-deprecating.
I am credible. I am the person that can change that child's life.
But I want to see young people win. I understand why it's beneficial for me as a man.
One of the biggest lessons that I learned, stop carrying around what belongs to God.
What's up, family? It's your main man, Coach Crump, and we got another great episode of the Boy Man King podcast. And I'm with my main man, Chizzy. Say what's up to the people, my guy.
What's going on, man? What's going on? Welcome, welcome. Good. I'm looking forward to this conversation, man. We're gonna go deep. We're gonna challenge brothers, but we're gonna go
Yeah,
deep. Looking forward to this conversation, man. Welcome to Donnie,
man.
man. Let's introduce him.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to introduce and to the platform a successful entrepreneur, a successful speaker, a husband, a father, a pop, a community activist, somebody who's in the front lines, in the trenches, helping our at-risk youth and community. Man, welcome to the platform, Donnie Landon. Man, appreciate you. Welcome to the platform, bro.
Welcome, man. Welcome.
Thank you
Good to have
very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all for having me. I'm grateful for being here.
And one of the things we want to do, man, and we don't even like bring people on the platform unless they credible, and also unless they like a real one. And you standing down on business, handling your responsibilities as a father, as a husband, and even in your entrepreneurship endeavors. But one of the things that we respect that you've been able to leverage is being an expert in your field of study, which is dealing with at risk, whether it's in our primary education system all the way into secondary or higher learning education, where you really do this work. First of all, tell us, just kind of give a backstory before we get into why this space is so important. Why did you even do it? How did you even get started? And what has it led to you to be able to accomplish so far in your career?
I got into this work. It kind of came at a time where I was doing so I did reentry for probably shoot, 10, 15 years. I was doing the reentry programs. I was doing tours. Last year I did 5 prisons in Memphis and Nashville. We did a road tour. So reentry has always been like my niche.
Reentry program and tours, in my mind, is two separate things. So, reentry program is helping people who are already in jail or
Mhm.
in prison come back to society in that 6 month transition when they're on probation, is what I know
And
for
tours is
reentry.
inside the prisons.
So, tours, you're inside the prison doing tours to do what though inside the prison? Is that part of reentry or is that part of what is that part of?
So I was part of the the commercial part of the prison system, the ones that had the commercial facilities. I did a tour with them inside the facility. So I have a fatherhood program that I run inside the prisons. And part of that fatherhood program, basis behind that, I grew up the child of an incarcerated father. So my passion growing up was always, how can I give back to the fathers? And when I began the program, people used to be like, you're not a father who was incarcerated. And
Mm,
my rebuttal was, I was a child of a father who was incarcerated, so I know more than a father that's locked up what the child needs.
Yeah.
So
mm,
yeah, so I go into prisons and I do programs, and one of the programs, and it's leading up to how I got to the kids. One of the programs I do is a mirror exercise. So I learned it at one of the trainings I did for fatherhood and just self development. And the exercise, you hold a mirror up to yourself, and you have your champions, your group, your supporters, and you tell yourself your life story.
Yeah.
So when I originally did the mirror exercise, I was thinking, I'm gonna breeze through this. I probably didn't make it past third or fourth grade. I probably got to like middle school and I just broke down and I couldn't, and I needed the support of people around me to help me finish the exercise.
mm,
So based off that, I was taking that program and other parts of my program that I was affected as a child as far as feeling your emotions and all that stuff that came along with having an absent father. And as I was doing it inside the prisons, I started realizing, they'll go to break and they'll come back, and guys would be like, "Man, I didn't make it through the exercise. Like I broke down crying."
Mm,
So that was one of the takeaways for me is, for them, eventually I need you to get through, keep telling yourself a story until you can feel it. Because, a lot of things as men we avoid. We
yeah.
avoid our feelings. And a lot of people in penitentiary, they can't afford to pay attention to their feelings because of the
Mm,
environment they're in. They'll be taken as if they're
wow.
soft. So that was part of that program, and I was doing this for so long, and I started like, um, not saying I grew out of it because I still do it, but I found there was a need. I'm in the DC area, so the DC area
Mm,
is full of violence, and my kids were growing older. It's much different from when my kids were younger, and I didn't have to watch over them so much or know what's going on, the friends. So I decided I wanted to go into the schools and the detention centers. So
Mhm.
I started focusing more attention on the schools and the detention centers. And all of it is pretty much based on my upbringing and what I needed as a child, and what I needed as a child, I'm giving to the fathers, and now I'm giving it to the students as well.
Yeah. So I'm glad you actually you plugged, you seeing what you lacked as a youngster, and you're able to now say, this is what I thought I experienced, or what I needed growing up. So let's backtrack a little bit.
Mhm.
Let's go back to Donnie, the shorty, the young man growing up. Let's help frame this conversation in a way that allows our viewers to see how a man, an astute writer, activist dealing with young people, working with young people, goes from growing up to now having an experience. You talked earlier about your dad being incarcerated and how that kind of motivated you to want to give back to the community, or introduce a program into the prison system. Talk a little bit about growing up and how you arrived at a space, because it's easy for men in particular, all of us are probably guilty of it, to just focus on the money and focus on the
Mhm.
drive of being a professional, and getting paid. And I see it as a gift of service. We talk about it all the time. Talk a little bit about how you, as a man growing up, decided, all right, I want to devote my life to at-risk youth, to creating opportunities, to empowering young men, because I know it's something that I could have benefited from as a child. So give us a slight little backdrop to that.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm gonna be very vulnerable here. So and
I appreciate that.
transparent. So
So thank you.
work with me. So all right. So I was born in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Mm,
At a young age, I was a child, uh, probably 5, 6, 7 years old. My father was involved in a murder.
Hmm.
Um, Due to that murder, there were people that was trying to seek retaliation. So my mother and me and my sister, we had to relocate. So we moved to Texas. During the relocation, I had to change my name. So I
Uh-huh.
grew up with a different identity before I even knew who I was.
Ah.
Um, so going through school, I didn't really realize growing up why my name was different from my family's name. So there's a lot of instability. There's a lot of secrets around growing up. Um, you know, I was trying to find my identity because I left all my family.
Mhm.
Eventually, my father was released. We moved to Virginia. He started falling back into his old ways, and he eventually got arrested again. This time, he wouldn't be home until I became an adult. So that left me with a sense of feelings that I ignored, that I tried
Mhm.
to pass over. I grew up in a family where everybody was felons. Uh, I can probably count on maybe one or two fingers how many actually got a high school diploma. Most
Yeah.
of them got their certificates in jail. They got the jail, degrees. So my cousin just came home from 40 some years. My brother just came home from 30 years. So I grew up in a family of, so my identity was crushed. I didn't know who to follow or what to be. My father was kind of like everybody idolized my father. He drove Mercedes Benz. He wore suits and gaiters. So that's the only man that I've ever was able to see. But regardless of what he had going on, he was still my father, and a child
Yeah.
going to love his father. So at the end of the day, as you're growing up and you're going through life, you're going through middle school, you're having identity problems. You don't know because you really don't even know your name. So it's like you've been through so much that you're kind of confused with life and like, how did I get here? Why am I keep moving? And every time I go to one school, and to go to another school, I'm always a new kid. So it's always I gotta prove myself. So at some point, you started performing. You don't. You're not just at school. You start performing because you're always the new kid. So as I was growing up, the identity issues I started. As you get older, you start trying to figure out who you really are when you get around 13, 14, 15 years old. And at that time, I was living with my cousin who was in the streets selling drugs. My brother was just getting locked up. My other cousin, all this happened at one time. Just got locked up for murder, and when I was in high school. Um, Matter of fact, I watched my grandmother. My grandmother was in the hospital when my cousin went to prison, and the news broadcast was on TV, and I watched my grandmother pass as my cousin was getting arrested on the news. So all that's going on, and I'm like in ninth grade. So at this point, it's just a lot going on, a lot of trauma. My sister
Yeah.
was addicted to crack cocaine as a child. I remember nights where she couldn't get in the house because my mother would lock the door. She would climb a two-story townhome and knock on the window. So it was a lot of pressure that was going on in my life around that age. So
Yeah.
eventually, I started following the only thing I knew. I started going in the streets. I started selling drugs. I started robbing. I started smoking weed. I started doing everything that I saw that I thought was part of growing up and being a man.
Yeah.
Um, so eventually, it caught up with me. I was high off PCP. We call it Sherm sticks, y'all might call them, or Pookie off next Friday type situation.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
caught an assault and battery. And I caught an assault and battery on the
Man,
police
you
officer.
wasn't man. Hold on, but was you calling for the pigeons? That was you. Was
Look, I, I think I was. I woke. Yeah, I think I was. I mean, only thing I remember, I woke up hog-tied in the jail cell.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so I woke up. I remember
that's
being with an ex
wild.
girlfriend and waking up in the hog-tied in the jail cell. So the change really occurred.
Yeah.
The original change, the deep rooted part, occurred when I went to court. So I went to court and I was shackled. Coach, you might remember this is part of my 10-minute speech, and this is
Yeah.
the basis behind it. I was shackled in the courtroom, and as I was walking out, I locked eyes with my mother, and this kind of emotional part for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I saw the same pain, the same tears, the same disappointment, like the same hurt that I seen as a child. My father was incarcerated. Um, and my mother, I didn't really talk about because she's special. My mother has always, since I've known her, been into Christ, been into the Lord, and
Yeah.
she's 99.9% of the reason I'm the person I am today. So she kept me grounded. So she was the other side speaking to me, but she was a woman growing up during those days, and I didn't know how to handle that. So getting back to the story, um, when I seen the tears come down her face and the pain and reminiscing, I broke and I made a vow to myself and a vow to God that I would never be the cause of her pain again. So that vow took me to oh, this is another part. I truly believe this is why one of the things I truly believe about when you make a promise to God and He knows your heart. I truly believe like that's the one moment that I believe that God truly knows if you're actually serious about the decisions you're making or not. Because what happened next was totally shocking. The police officer that I assaulted, he got on the stand and he started speaking about a child he used to watch play football, who could have been someone if he just had some guidance. And he spoke on my behalf and asked for leniency. So it's a man that I've never even spoken to
Mhm.
outside of an altercation that was watching me from the stands. So it just taught me that the person that shows up for you is not always who you expect. So stop
Yeah.
shutting people out when they try to pour into you.
Mhm.
So that vow, because of his testimony, I was able to join the military. So I joined the military. I went in the Navy. I never looked back. I got out the Navy. I pursued my degrees. Um, I worked hard. I got my master's degree in strategic intelligence, and I eventually rose to the chief of staff for the president's daily brief, where I coordinated intelligence for President Obama. So, as part of that story, through all of that, at some point, there was a part of me saying that other kids, other students, other people need to hear this because they need to know what's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Come on.
Yeah.
one thing I realized about kids, and I was just talking about this yesterday, is you can be a speaker And if a kid can't see their story inside of you, it's hard for them to relate to you. So a lot of the students and people I talk to, um, it's relatable because everybody goes through something. Everybody's been through the moment where their sister may be on drugs, their father may have been incarcerated, they may have been doing drugs. So it humanizes me regardless of my accomplishments.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. And that kind of brought me to the point where I am now. I'm so impactful. I mean, I'm so passionate about saving lives. And the real passion really came when I just finally totally submitted to Christ and, said, let your will be done. It didn't happen. It wasn't perfect, you know what I mean? But
Mm.
I'm reaching for perfection every day.
And listen, bro, man, again, every time I hear your story, every time I hear like what you've been able to endure, man, just thank you first of all for your service, and thank you for your perseverance. Now I would like to make a pivot to really get into some information about, man, your story, incredible. The work you've been doing, incredible. But the issue at hand and what we really want to
Mhm.
talk about, is how do we get men to get involved with at risk? Like if you would say, what's the number one thing we can do starting tomorrow, Monday morning? What would that be to get men more involved with helping and having the heart posture and the willingness to help our at-risk youth? So many of our schools are struggling, so many of our families are struggling, so many of our communities are struggling. And the biggest reason that we have the biggest systemic issue is the active or activity or involvement thereof of masculine, mature men in these spaces. So, with all that you've done, all that you've been through, and all that you're doing, what can we do to get more men involved in this space?
I would say be authentic and practice what you preach. That's kind of like two of the things. Because I'm not going to follow someone that I see that's not passionate or not take care of their own kids or are not being a role model. So there's men that I feel like I'm one of the top fathers of the year ever in history. Because I overcompensate because of the way I grew up.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of men, if I was to call on them, they're going to show up because they know how passionate I am about being a father, about the kids. So if you have the passion, your passion will radiate amongst people around you, and that will bring together people automatically. And then if your passion radiates to someone else, their passion is going to radiate to somebody else, and then everybody's going to want to be part of the movement. So I feel like if you're walking what you're talking and you're being authentic and truthful and you're really passionate, I just think the universe just kind of brings stuff together. Outside of that, if you want men to like pour into the youth, I think you need to pour into the men
Yeah.
Mm,
because you can't expect somebody who's already broken to try to help you out.
Facts. I was
So
gonna ask you
first you
about
need to
your
fix the
healing.
man.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Uh,
I was sorry, sorry to interject.
no,
I
you
was
good.
gonna ask you about your healing process because given what you've experienced, and I would imagine, there are a lot of men who have had a similar experience to yours who are saying, man,
Mhm.
I don't even know if I want to transfer that negative energy into a young person. That type of self-deprecating, thought pattern that a lot of men have that could prohibit them from taking the leap into service, into supporting another young person. Like, what would you recommend or say to a guy who's thinking about it, who's had a similar experience growing up, and is still struggling in terms of their own healing to be able to see past their immediate circumstances and see how that healing process, like what did you do? How did you navigate that healing for yourself to get to here?
That's a great question. So that actually is part of my framework. So my framework is feel it, flip it, flex it. So the feel it part is facing what you've been avoiding.
Yeah.
The flipping part is flipping the story you've been telling yourself. So what you said just aligns perfectly to what I would tell them. So
Hmm.
if someone would come to me and tell me about their struggles and how how their struggles and they don't feel worthy to tell someone else,
mm,
first you have to feel it. So
mm,
after
Yeah.
they feel that, because they felt their part. That's the feeling part. The flip it is the story they just told themselves. They need to flip it. So instead of saying, because I've been through this, I'm not credible to talk to this child. No, you flip that. Because of my experiences,
I am.
because I've been where that child been and more, I am credible. I am the person that can change that child's life.
Mhm.
So it's just flipping the mindset instead of saying, I'm not worthy because I have trauma, I've been through trauma. No, you are worthy because you've been through trauma. And
Mm.
you just need to flip it. Because you've been through that trauma, you are able to help someone else. So
Sure.
it's a matter of igniting that switch and going from one perspective to the other.
Yeah.
What's
No.
the
No.
third
That.
one? What's the third one? You gotta hold on,
Oh, the
Chizzy.
third? Oh,
Yeah, you can't leave
okay.
us out. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
got you,
Nah,
got
bro,
you.
you only got
Oh,
two.
gosh, my
You
bad.
only got
Okay.
two.
Oh,
Give us the
so it's
third
flip,
one.
flip it and
Mhm.
flex it. So the
Like
flex
it.
it part,
Okay.
so the flex it part is one intentional, you're flexing your growth. You're flexing one intentional action every day to flex. You filled it, you flipped it, and now it's flexing. So now you're flexing to the world your growth.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
there we
you are
go.
showing up, you are doing this, you are doing that.
That's golden, right? Because I can tell you with a certainty, right? In my own personal experience, there was one point where I had this imposter syndrome because I came from a pretty, in my view, a pretty stable environment. Parents married 46 years. My dad's a pastor. My mom's a police officer. So in terms of adverse experiences, I never personally had those experiences, but I had the passion, one, and I had the desire of service. I was blessed. God gave me the blessing of service, having come under my dad. And we talked about this previously, and watching him interact with young people and just having a desire to serve
Mm.
young people. Being relatable is important for a young person. I think that passion, because you can still be relatable, you can have a similar experience, but still not demonstrate a humility and an empathy and an
Mm.
understanding of someone's circumstances to even get to a point where your own adverse experiences now translates into a passion for support and for service. So I just wanted to highlight that component for the
Mhm.
individual or the man out there that's saying, well, I never really had that, but I want to see young people win. I understand why it's beneficial for me as a man to show up in spaces so that young black and brown people and old young men can identify with somebody who kind of looks like me, who I can assimilate, or I can show that you know that you can be me, so to speak. You know what I mean? There are a lot of men, I believe there are a
Mhm.
lot of men out there who definitely have a passion for it, but don't quite know how to get involved. What would you say? How would you tell a guy, look, if you want to do this, this is what we offer. This is how you can support. What would your advice be on getting men in the building initially, just to see what's going on? Just because sometimes men are even they have blind spots. They don't even recognize the value that they have when they walk into certain spaces. How do you encourage men to just step outside of their comfort zone and come into spaces to see if this is something that they can, something they want to get involved with, and in turn generate that passion just through experience?
Well, probably ask them like what drives them.
Yeah,
Try to find because most men, when you really get down to it, a lot of men I talk to, they don't have relationships with their kids. They have kids, they don't have relationship with their kids, and they don't want to talk about it.
yeah,
Mhm.
But in a lot of situations, and I guess it leads back to your point, but everybody doesn't have kids. But a lot of situations, because of the conversations I have with men, they usually break down and tell me the root problem and get down to it. And on many occasions, men who doesn't have don't do not did not have relationship with their kids, I was able to get them to come to certain courses to help other kids, not based on they don't have a relationship with their kids, but to give back so they can feel like they're actually doing something for a kid. They
yeah,
kind of like fill their void of not having that relationship.
yeah,
They can find that little boy who they can kind of pour into because the baby mother won't let them talk to the kid or the kid don't like them because they left the house.
yeah,
So giving them a purpose that's saying like you can't pour into your kid. Maybe I understand that because maybe it's just a situation where it's just not going to work. But don't rule out all the other kids. You know,
yeah,
it's your duty. If you can't do with your kid, then I feel like it's your duty. I'm a very strict, not strict, but I'm a very straightforward type person.
yeah,
I'm not gonna spare you. When it comes to like saving kids and helping people, I'm pretty straightforward. And I may be kind of rude at times because I'm gonna call you out.
yeah,
I'm gonna call you
yeah,
out and I'm gonna tell you it's your responsibility, it's your duty, and if you don't like it, then just stay away from me. Because if you're going to be around me, you're going to be a person of character. And if you're not a person of character, I don't want you around me. If you're not a person who wants to be that person to go pour into kids, and you're in the wrong circle. And I don't want you around me. Until you get your where you want to be right, then you come back to my life. You go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue. And first and foremost, man, this has been so impactful, so valuable. But I think to Chizzy's point, you answered it there, I think, great at the end, the right circle. You know what I mean, Chizzy? Like one thing that, even me and Chizzy been doing this space for over 20 years, but we hang with each other. So like-minded create like-minded conversation. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so sometimes as a man, you don't want to just be in conversations with men who only talk about money, who only talk about women, who only talk about the government, who only like you want to get with people who like Chizzy will let you know, like, yo, I need an assistant coach on this basketball team, man. We got to go take tournament to Vegas. This was 20 plus years ago. He's like, bro, I got you. Chizzy was
Gotcha.
doing Youth on the Move, helping people who need to get a chance to get employment after 18 and was struggling for 18 to 35-year-olds. And he was like, bro, I need you to come and speak to our board and do a workshop for our group. I was like, I got you. Like we would just go back and forth, and then I'm at the boys' home, he at the boys' home, he at the boys' home, I'm at the boys' home. I'm working with gangs, and they're like, oh, I need a program manager. My boy Chizzy, he can get a program organized like nobody's business. It's like the work we did was because we was in certain circles with men who was doing the work. So for men who really want to get in this space, really make sure you're actually intentional about being in a relationship with men who are in the space. But to your point, Donnie, make sure you come with the right heart and character and energy, because you can't be coming in and out these kids' life, because they will call you out. Because kids, just like you go call it out, you're straightforward, man. If anybody
Ooh.
never worked with at-risk kids, particularly
Oh yeah.
teenagers, like even younger, like young preteens, these kids can find a phony, will call out a fake, will let like they smell BS from a mile away. So like the kids will chin check you more than anything. And you're gonna see, like, this has been my experience. You're gonna see what real work is like. You're gonna see like what they really go through, how it hurts your heart when you really realize no matter how much you think your situation is challenging, when you see somebody taking advantage of a kid, when you see a
Mm.
kid going through something that they didn't ask for, it triggers a whole nother element of even what's inside of you, what's capable of you, that you go
Yeah.
beyond what you would usually do at any other employment, because the care for it to even work, because you can't even
Mm.
work with kids unless you care. But Donnie,
Yeah.
as we close, I want to give both of you guys your final thoughts. Like, what is some key lessons, takeaways, or just closing thoughts in general you want to leave our audience? Donnie, I'll go to you, and Chizzy, I'll let you close.
For me, I'm going to leave on something that's a character trait, something spiritual. Um, One of the biggest lessons that I learned is stop carrying around what belongs to God. So that was one of the biggest lessons I try to carry so much. As men, we try to carry everything on our own shoulders.
Mm,
Although we say we're spiritual, it's so hard to just let go of things because we want to carry it. And then
mm,
every day you're putting something else in your backpack. You're putting something else in your backpack. Um, but it's not until the point where you stop carrying what belongs to God that lives get a lot easier. The backpack
mm,
get lighter. Opportunities open up. Because now, not because you've been carrying it, it's almost like you're not trusting God.
mm,
So for me, it was me just being able to just let it go and say, okay, God, this is yours. So I'm gonna do whatever doors you open, whatever timing you give me. If it's next year, it's next year. Whatever season you give me. Uh, I'm s- I'm tired of carrying what belongs to you.
Man, I just want to say there is healing in helping. There is healing in helping. So oftentimes we feel like we have to show up complete in spaces to be able to support other people. So that's good. But sometimes just the mere fact that you're giving your time and your energy, you'll be surprised at how much healing is involved in offering help and assistance and being of service to people, to young people in particular. So I just want to say, if there's a brother out there that feels like they're not along that pathway to give back, there is help, there's healing in helping. put yourself out there, and you'll be amazed at how beneficial spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically it will be for you if you just allow yourself to be in a space to support someone else. And you can have a shared experience around that. So that's my takeaway, man. Take some time out to
Oh,
just take your own healing in your hands by helping someone else.
Man, thank you guys so
100%.
much. Donnie, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for
Pleasure.
taking the
Pleasure.
time to share with your information, your wisdom with our platform. And as we say on the Boy Man King podcast, the journey
The journey
continues. Y'all be
continues.
blessed. Have a good one, man. Thank you, Donnie.
Appreciate you,
All
Donnie,
right. Thank y'all.
man.
I appreciate y'all.
Be
All right.
blessed,
Thanks,
my
Umbre.
brother.